Good morning, Kenya. Rise and shine to the morning momentum. Your daily compendium of local and international news, human interest stories, current affairs, and expert opinion. The hashtag on X is the morning momentum at Younib Media TV. At Alphonce Albakwekwe. It is the second day of April, and let's take a look at the top stories making the headlines on the papers this morning. On the Daily Nation, on the front page, the politics of handchecks. Now, MPs have on many occasions been accused of being the executive's take. The President William Ruto's claim of a 10 billion demand by his former deputy Rigathi Gachagua in exchange for political support has exposed the transactional nature of the country's politics, where elected leaders are willing to dish out billions of taxpayers' cash to buy loyalty. This flagrant bribery happens in the run-up to presidential contests, during coalition building, and in sealing ceasefire deals, and Kenya's top politicians have been accused of being complicit. That story is beefed up for you on page 4 and page 5 of the Nation this morning. On page 6, Ruto and Raila are meddling with the reconstitution of IEBC team, claims opposition leaders. The leaders also accused Dr. Ruto's United Democratic Alliance, UDA, and the Orange Democratic Movement, ODM, under Mr. Odinga of engaging in early campaigns. And you'll catch up with that on page 6. On page 10 this morning, Kenyan officers injured in clashes with Haiti gangs. 2 Kenyan police officers in Haiti have been seriously injured in clashes with gangs over the past week, adding to the mission's growing number of casualties as it comes under increasingly frequent attacks. That story is beefed up for you on page 10. And on page 2, I've been left without a single child. Pain, agony of a widow after a horror road accident. A mother burying her 3 sons and 3 grandchildren, a widow laying to rest her husband and her only 3 children, and a firm hand bidding a farewell to her son. This is the heartbreaking situation that has cast a somber mood over Kamiritu village in Limuru, Kiambu County. We'll take a look at that. Let's get up close and candid with the Nation on page 2. Angry sea unleashes record flooding in Lamu's old town. Now, global warming and rising global temperatures are contributing to rising sea levels. Some traders were displaced from their usual locations and forced to move to higher ground, with businesses and homes affected. That story is beefed up for you on page 2. On page 3, to a tragic story, I have been left without a child. Pain of widow after horror crash. Now, the mood is somber in Kamiritu village, Limuru, after one family lost 7 members in a road accident. 7 people perished at High Peak near Naivasha town on the Maimahiu-Naivasha highway. You'll catch up with that story on page 3 of the Daily Nation this morning. On page 4, the politics of handchecks and handshakes. Ruto's 10 billion shillings claim triggers a debate, and Tuju once said that the then DP William Ruto was paid billions of shillings for being Uhuru Kenyatta's running mate in 2013. Now, President William Ruto's claim of a 10 billion shillings demand by his former deputy Rigathi Gachagua in exchange for support, after the latter had also said the head of state offered him 2 billion shillings, has exposed Kenya's transactional politics. The allegations by the president has triggered debate on the nature of politics in Kenya and abuse of office by leaders willing to dish out billions of taxpayers' shillings for loyalty, especially as elections approach. 3, there has been talk of bribery during coalition building, as some players sacrifice their ambitions in exchange of money and on condition of delivering ethnic voting blocks. That story is beefed up for you on page 4. Also on page 5, Flower Girl trip important for Kindiki and Gachagua. Now, the trip means a lot for Gachagua and his successor Kithure Kindiki. The current DP is perceived by many in Mount Kenya as the country in general as a flower girl with limited influence on the power dynamics, some analysts say. Now, the dismissal of Public Service CS Justin Muturi does not help matters for Kindiki. Among those dropped as chairpersons of National Assembly committees were Ndindi Nyoro, Budget and Planning, his Kipkiriri colleague Wanjiku Muhia, and Githunguri's Gathoni Wamushomba, during who used to oversight the constitutional implementation oversight. On page 6, Ruto Raila meddling with IEBC rebuilding, says opposition. Shortlisting of Mdivo and Kigen questioned. The opposition leaders accused the two of manipulating the process. Now, the opposition yesterday rejected the reconstitution of electoral agency, accusing President William Ruto and ODM leader Raila Odinga of manipulating the process. The leaders also accused Dr. Ruto's UDA and the ODM under Mr. Odinga of engaging in early campaigns. Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, People's Liberation Party chief Martha Karua, and DAP Kenya's Eugene Wamalwa alleged that there is a plot to control the recruitment of the new Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission commissioners. That story is beefed up for you on page 6. On page 7 this morning, I will not isolate you, Ruto assures Mount Kenya residents. Kindiki accuses their rivals of working towards propagating tribal politics, and the president inspects, launches development projects during the start of his 5-day tour. That story is beefed up for you on page 7. Let's take a look at that a little bit more. The president's tour kicked off yesterday, that is the 5-day tour in the Mount Kenya region, with an assurance to the residents that they would not be isolated by the government. The president's massive message was the same during the stopovers in Laikipia and Nyeri counties, where he inspected and launched projects worth billions of shillings. Dr. Ruto was accompanied by Deputy President Kithure Kindiki, cabinet secretaries, and members of parliament and governors. That story is beefed up for you on page 7. Let's take a look at page 8 this morning. Kiir protests Raila stand on South Sudan crisis. In his remarks, Mr. Odinga explained that President Kiir had instructed him to contact President Museveni. South Sudanese government denies Odinga's claims that first Vice President Riek Machar's wife was also under house arrest. A diplomatic row has erupted between South Sudan and Kenya's special envoy Raila Odinga after President Salva Kiir's government rejected the former Prime Minister's claims about the political crisis in Juba. The South Sudanese government denied Mr. Odinga's allegations that Interior Minister Angelina Teny, the wife of first Vice President Riek Machar, was also under house arrest. AU steps in, de-escalating the tensions in Juba, and this comes as the African Union Commission sent a high-level delegation from the AU panel of the WISE to Juba to engage with all stakeholders to try and de-escalate tensions and promote dialogue. That story is beefed up for you on page 8. Let's take a look at page 10. Kenyan officers in Haiti suffer more casualties in gang attacks. The mission in Haiti seeks to restore security to enable the country hold elections. Sources say 20 armored vehicles grounded after officers refused to use them over safety concerns. Here are the complaints. The delegation set to present concerns over gear safety, and a delegation from the Multinational Security Support plans to travel to Washington this week to present concerns over the quality of protective gear to United States officials. Two senior MSS officers told Reuters the U.S. has provided most of the funding and equipment for the mission. That story is beefed up for you on page 10. Let's shift gears and take a look at the expert opinion this morning. Sweden supports UN reform to boost its effectiveness. Like the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, we see a strong need for continuous reform to keep the UN fit to provide global solutions to global challenges. That story is beefed up for you on page 12. On page 13, don't suppress political slogans. Freedom of expression is the backbone of any democracy, and restricting political slogans sets a precedent for further crackdowns on civil liberties. You'll catch up with that story on page 13. Let's move on and take a look at the DN2 motoring article this morning. What do peace notes say? For brevity, they do not so much describe what is coming. They focus on letting the rally driver know what he or she will have to do. This gives you quite a number of insights on the peace notes during the Safari rally, and you'll catch up with that on the DN2 motoring article. All right, let's move on and take a look at more stories here outside the DN2 article. Let's take a look at county news. Now, County Affairs Committee is toothless, senators say. Now, 3 billion movable assets handed over last year, XPS announced. Lawmakers are unhappy with the long delay in the transfer of assets for devolved functions. You'll catch up with more insights on page 17 of the Nation this morning. Briefly, in Machakos County, Machakos grapples with the high number of foreign patients. The county government of Machakos is putting measures in place to deal with the challenges occasioned by an influx of patients at its health facilities. The problem has been caused by disruption of healthcare in the neighboring Kajiado, Makueni, and Kitui counties. The nationwide universal health care staff's strike and a delay in operations of SHA in private facilities are other reasons why patients are trooping to Machakos. In Homa Bay County, 390 youth seeking jobs failed Germany examinations. At least 390 learners who were registered for German language lessons at Tomboya University in Homa Bay County have dropped out of the program after failing examinations. The fully sponsored program seeks to equip Kenyan youths with knowledge of the language to enable them secure work in European countries such as Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. Other countries whose citizens speak German are Luxembourg and Belgium. Now, by failing the exams, the youths have a narrow chance of traveling to Europe. That story is augmented for you on page 17. Let's take a look at Nakuru County. Arrested and detained for failing to raise bail and dead in days. What happened to Tout? Now, the mystery surrounds the death of a 28-year-old Nakuru man who died 2 days after being remanded at a Nakuru GK prison for failing to raise cash bail. Dennis Kiprotich, a Matatu tout, was arrested on 21st of March by plainclothes officers following a confrontation with a passenger at a stage in Nakuru town. He was taken to Nakuru Central Police Station where he spent the weekend before being arraigned on March 25th. He pleaded not guilty to charges of assault and injuring the passenger contrary to Section 251 of the Penal Code. According to the charge sheet, Kiprotich allegedly assaulted and injured Stanley Kibiku Njoroge on February 28th at Nakuru Township in Nakuru East. Despite pleading not guilty, he was granted 10,000 shillings bond with surety. However, he was unable to raise the amount and was remanded at Nakuru GK prison where he later died under unclear circumstances. His case was scheduled for mention on April 7th. In Bomet County this morning, hospitals drugs shortage amid expired supplies. The Level 4 hospital is struggling with service delivery gaps, and audit report reveals the state of Longisa County Referral Hospital. That story is beefed up for you on page 18. 85 is the number of units of expired drugs that had not been disposed of. Let's shift gears and take a look at the international scene. We start with a top story on Donald Trump's options in quest for third term. Analyst says there are no constitutional methods to circumvent 22nd Amendment. During campaigns, he said his supporters might demand another term. Donald Trump on Sunday said he was not joking about the possibility of seeking a third term as US president, even though the Constitution bars heads from being elected more than twice. Now, in Somaliland, Somaliland rejects Somalia offer of port to the United States. Somalia's breakaway region of Somaliland has rejected an attempt by the central government to give the United States exclusive control of a port and airbase in Berbera. The city lies on the Gulf of Aden, the northern coast of Somaliland, the territory which declared independence as Somalia descended into civil war in 1991, says the report, and base are not Mogadishu's to give away. A story is beefed up for you on page 19. Now, on business news this morning, January in record power sale on rising demand. Commercial, industrial consumers account for largest share. Uptake of electricity grows by 8.5% in period on high economic activity. 3,243 is Kenya's total installed capacity from the various sources. That story is beefed up for you on page 20. Now, briefly, ex-CBK chairman Nyaoga leads AFDB appeals committee. Now, the former chairman of the Central Bank of Kenya, Mohamed Nyaoga, has been named chair of African Development Bank's Disclosure and Access to Information Appeals panel. In statistics, inflation rises to 6-month high on costly tech and tomatoes. Now, a rise in the prices of sukuma wiki, tomatoes and potatoes saw Kenya's inflation rise to 3.6% year-on-year in March from 3.5% a month before, the highest level in 6 months, a report by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics has said. Now, also on business still, we are still not trading with you, Sudan says on Ruto talk. The government of Sudan has rejected claims by President William Ruto that Khartoum was still buying Kenyan tea despite a ban on trade with Nairobi. President Ruto had on Monday claimed that Kenyan tea is still on sale in Sudan despite a trade ban, and urged farmers not to worry about losing the key market. All right, that brings us to end of business news. Let's take a look at the world of sports. Now, we start with the rugby sevens. How mental coaching is changing Kenya Lionesses play and results. Coach Dennis Mwanja's Chargers are well on course to clinch a spot in the World Series playoffs. Indian-born Bini Brambat has returned to the team as the mental strength coach, and her impact has been remarkable and off the pitch. Now, Coach Dennis Ironman Mwanja had some of the best players at his disposal, yet the nation women's rugby sevens team, Kenya Lionesses, repeatedly fell short against South Africa in crucial moments. That story is augmented for you on page 30. On page 31 this morning, why Mashemeji Derby return match has been postponed. Now, safety and security concerns after huge attendance, says FKF boss Mohammed. The two rivals were ready for back-to-back weekend meetings. Now, the Football Kenya Federation President Hussein Mohammed yesterday said the FKF Premier League second leg match between rivals Gor Mahia and AFC Leopards scheduled for this Sunday had been postponed because of security and safety reasons. The football boss revealed the federation was taking stock of the challenges experienced in managing the crowd during last Sunday's sold-out Mashemeji Derby and the equally attended beyond capacity Harambee Stars World Cup qualifier against Gabon at Nyayo National Stadium a week earlier. In the English Premier League, away from home support the key difference for slot in Merseyside Derby tonight. Now, Liverpool manager Ancelotti said he expects today's clash with Everton at Anfield to be similar to their last meeting at Goodison Park in February, but with key difference that his players will have the backing of a home crowd. On the cover page of The Nation this morning, senators push Treasury to pay schools 67 billion shillings. School heads say they are struggling to keep institutions afloat. Lawmakers say Treasury must come up with a strategy to ensure timely disbursements. Now, senators want the National Treasury to prioritize the timely release of schools' capitation to end the perennial cash flow challenges facing the public institutions across the country amid arrears of 67 billion. 2 weeks ago, school heads complained that they were owed about 7 billion shillings in outstanding capitation for the first term of this year, with schools set to close by Friday. Kenya Secondary School Heads Association Chairman Willie Kuria said the 7 billion shillings was in addition to the 60 billion owed by Treasury to the Ministry of Education for unfunded pupils from 2023. Also on the cover page this morning, court quashes directive requiring parents to repay school fees on e-Citizen. The government was yesterday dealt a blow after the High Court in Nairobi quashed its directive requiring parents to pay school fees through the e-Citizen platform. E-Citizen is an online platform that provides government services and information to citizens. Justice Chacha Mwita ruled that the directive that the payment of fees and other levies for all government learning institutions be made through e-Citizen had no legal basis. Now, with that story of government being dealt a blow with their quest to get parents pay school fees through e-Citizen, we come to the tail end of today's session of the Morning Momentum, the second one in the month of April. Thank you so much for choosing to stay with us and for choosing to watch the best youth television network in East and Central Africa. The program on air has been the Morning Momentum, and our heartfelt gratitude goes to all those who made this broadcast a success behind the lens. The one and the crazy Elias Mushina, and on the controls this morning has been Peninah Wachera. See you tomorrow, same time, same place. Until then, do have a beautiful day ahead of you. My name is Alphonce Ouma. Bye-bye for now.